memory. We saw it in UFC 264. Stephen A. Remember the Hardy fight? Mm-hmm. So he's fighting a guy with muscle memory. Hardy's an athlete. He hurts him and thinks, I'm going to exchange now, and then he's knocked out. That can happen to Jake Paul. There's no guarantee Jake Paul beats Tyron Woodley. But is it unthinkable that he could maneuver himself and here's why. And then I'm going to give it to you, Stephen A.
Okay.
Why would Canelo Alvarez want to fight some killer who's been like boxing destroyer, who's had a deep amateur background, deep professional record for $30 million, when he might be able to fight Jake Paul by then for $50 to $100 million for easy work? Why wouldn't he want to do that? It's irrational not to want that fight.
You talking about Canelo?
Yup. So if Jake Paul spends the next couple of years having real success, which is not out of the realm of possibility, along the lines of a plan I just outlined, he could position himself to be a big payday and easy work for Canelo. And I love the fact that he thinks he can win that fight.
What you say is very, very logical, but I completely and totally disagree with you. And you'll know exactly where I'm going when I say this. Canelo's no joke when it comes to boxing. And what I mean by that is he doesn't joke around. He doesn't mess around. It is a profession he takes very, very seriously. Now, he may negotiate for the money, but he don't fight for the money. That ain't what he's about at this stage and point in his career. This brother means business.
Always has.
Okay? He is no joke. And he comes in there, he ain't coming in there. The only person that can play around exhibition-wise is Steph Curry on a golf course with him when he's faking and feinting and all of that stuff. That's all. You ain't stepping in a squared circle with Canelo Alvarez and think he gonna play. He ain't playing. That's number one. Number two, it's important because Jake Paul has done a great, great deal for himself. I'm gonna make sure that I do everything that I can to make sure everybody understands my point about him. I like and appreciate Jake Paul and what he's done for the sport of boxing because he has shown these people you don't have to rely or be at the mercy of these promoters in order to make money in a ring. I love that concept because too many, like, we should have seen Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. by now instead of looking forward to Errol Spence Jr. against Pacquiao. But we got to wait because the promoters, they have too much control over the sport. That's why the UFC has elevated in its popularity.
One promoter. Because
it's one promoter, which is Dana White, and he's going to make sure you get the fight.
Why can't they do that in boxing?
That's right. You're going to make sure you get the fights that you want to see. So in that regard, I'm very high on Jake Paul. But let me be very clear. I thought what he did to Nate Robinson was illegal. Nate Robinson is no boxer. Jake Paul.
Neither was Jake Paul at the time.
Time out. Wait a minute. Jake Paul, from what I'm told, if I'm wrong, I apologize. What I have been told is that Jake Paul has been training with professionals for the last 4 years. That's what I've been told. Whether it's boxers or trainers, this dude has been in the gym. He takes this very, very seriously. To get a basketball player that has no training whatsoever and to pull him into the ring with you, if you got on the street, you'd be arrested for that stuff.
Nate's got to get himself in boxing shape.
No. Nate is no boxer. He was doing it. He was talking smack to a guy that was talking on YouTube. That's all it was. But you knew you were training professionally for years, and you had somebody in the ring that was ill-equipped to be in there with you. I don't like that. That's very shady. Now, I want to see this guy against boxers. Now, let me say this. Anybody with muscle memory, Max, that's all I mean by that.
Well, Tyron Woodley has some striking experience.
I would have knocked Jake for beating him because I get that. That's my point. He's got some experience, even though I don't think that he's a boxer. But the bottom line is he can definitely hit, and we know what he did in the UFC because Tyron Woodley was great at one time. Here's my point about Canelo that I wanted to give to you. Max Kellerman, I'm going to use this opportunity to give some people some shine. I'm not sure Jamal Charlo is big enough to beat Canelo, but the brother is like 32-0.
Yeah.
I mean, when we gonna give him some love in terms of him deserving a title shot, a big fight I'm talking about against a big name fight. And you know who I'm a real fan of, Max? A huge fan of. He don't look the part, but when he get in the ring, Molly, he's a monster. David Benavidez.
Yo, he is a beast.
This brother right here.
He's a beast.
I mean, I'd like to see Canelo against somebody like that. I'm looking at Canelo Alvarez, and I'm like, these fighters. I mean,
I want to see Berlanga and Benavidez if you want to get deep into the weeds.
I'm just saying to you, I'll leave it to you. Feel free to educate me because, you know, I watch the sport, but not like you do. So I'm going to defer to you. I'm just saying, when I see Canelo and I see a cat like Benavidez with the speed and the boxing ability
an
and
animal,
the
too.
power and the
He's just an
viciousness. I'm like, there's certain guys that deserve love. And I'm like, Benavidez 24-0 with 21 KOs. Okay, Canelo's 56-1 and 56-1-2. Only loss was to Floyd Mayweather. He got 38 knockouts. It's 18 fights you ain't had a knockout. Benavidez has knocked out 90% of the dudes he's faced. Jamal Charlo, when are we going to say at least, and I'm not sure he could beat Canelo, but when are we going to sit up there and say that about Jamal Charlo? Can we give this brother some love? Can we make sure?
Demetrius Andrade, by the way.
Well, yeah, and I saw he was at Marvin Hagler's memorial service, and I got love for Andrade. He can box. I'm not sure the puncher, but he can box. I get that. But Charlo, can we get this man a big fight? I mean, people hiding from him. I mean, give him something. Him and Benavidez are my two, Max. Go ahead.
I mean, I'd like to see Canelo move up and fight Bivol, light heavyweight boxer, Bivol.
He didn't move up. He didn't he
or better Biev.
I know he's that super.
Or better Biev. I want to see Canelo better Biev. To me, that's the best fight you can make other than Crawford Spence. But I'll say this, getting back to Jake Paul, and I like the fact that you're using a segment where we're talking about a guy who's kind of promoting himself, steering it toward guys who've really put in the work over decades and deserve the shine.
Right.
It is not uncommon for inexperienced fighters when they turn pro, especially if they don't have deep amateur backgrounds, but they have star potential, to match them extremely carefully. The issue that the Paul brothers run into is that they have to make big events because they're so famous, right? And they're generating lots of money. How do you make a big event, but you're so inexperienced that the other guy's not going to beat you? You either got to fight a much smaller guy or an inexperienced guy. But why does the public interested? Why would they be interested in that guy? Well, early on, Nate Robinson, well, he's an athlete, he's athletic. Then you move on, well, okay, Askren's not really a striker. Well, Woodley's a striker, but he's older. Now we need to get a striker who's not so old, a striker who's his own size. Eventually you work up over time, but we know all these characters that Paul is fighting, right? That's why he can generate interest. Eventually, after half a dozen, 8 fights, Jake Paul needs to fight an actual professional boxer. I don't think he's there yet.
I don't even care if it was an amateur.
Yeah, I don't
just
think
somebody with muscle memory, man.
Right, that's
somebody with muscle memory when it comes to boxing. That's all I'm asking.
I don't think he's there yet, and I'm not looking to get Jake Paul bumped off before he has a chance to get enough experience to make a fight like that, because I think it's good for boxing. He's drawing eyeballs.
I don't think it's good for you to fight people who don't box. That's all I'm saying.
Does Woodley has striking?
That's why I didn't say anything about Woodley.
Well,
Nate Robinson
only his 4th fight.
Nate Robinson's a basketball player. Come on, man.
Sure.
And you know you've been training
but Jake Paul at the time.
5 Eastern, ESPN 2.
Oh my goodness, it's caught. DeAndre Hopkins caught it. He caught it for a touchdown with 1 second left. I can't believe it.